rapid pace out here early in the second. Levert, hey, knocks it down. Rondo's on the run. Stops, hits Love fires. Cavs reset with a fresh 14. Under 3 to go in the half. Garland works on Holiday. Toss it for a moment, shovels to Mobley. Garland, step back three, drew a foul, knocks it down.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening live to episode number 23 of the All Things Cleveland Cavalier Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Lewis, alongside my regular co-host, Joey Shen.
What's going on, Brandon? Good day as usual. Got a lot of Cavs to talk about. Big thing is happening in Cleveland in sports, except with the Guardians. Sorry, Mel and Max. So let's get right into it. Let's talk some Cavs.
So obviously we have a big night tonight. We're going up against the Raptors. Before we get to that, though, we do have to talk about the last 5-game homestand, because we know it's all about protecting home court, home field, home ice, whatever you want in sports. And the Cavs did not do that over the last 5 games, going 2-3, including 2-2 in their last 4 games that we previewed last week. Obviously defeating Detroit and Denver, but then losing to the Sixers and losing to the Lakers, which we both said, Joey, was the easiest game on the schedule. How do you feel after these last 4 games after last week and going 2-3 in the last 5?
This is probably the most mixed feelings that I've had on the Cavs, because you know that I don't believe in moral wins, but we really almost beat the Sixers. It wasn't like the last 2 games we played them where they truly outclassed us. We really had a shot to beat them, and the Cavs just kind of, we lost by 4, couldn't get it done in the end. And even without Jarrett Allen, I could see this team growing. So while I don't believe in moral victories, I thought that was a good game. Then we come out, and what have we been asking for? Let's beat a good team. And we finally got over that hump by beating the Denver Nuggets. Great win. I know they're out there without Jamal Murray, but they've been without Jamal Murray all year, and they've still been a great team. So we finally got another big win that we haven't had in a while. And then we finally beat our white whale in the Detroit Pistons, one of the worst teams in the league, a game that they needed to win. And we both predicted that they wouldn't, because, sometimes history history repeats itself. But they finally came out, were able to get a win over the Pistons. And, we've talked about this before. The Pistons are such a unique team because they're not bad. They have a bad record, but they got great players on that team. Cade Cunningham, I think he's right now second in the rookie of the year, next to our own Evan Mobley at first. You have Jeremy Grant, Cedi. Isaiah Stewart was playing great. They got some really, really great players. So it's just I think it's a tough matchup for a lot of teams. They just lose all the time, except when they play the Cavs. And then and then the game we all thought that the Cavs were going to win, and that was against the Lakers, is the one that they were in it up until about maybe 5 minutes left in the fourth, and then that was all she wrote. They put a lid on the hoop. Cavs couldn't make a shot, and we ended up losing by, I think, 9 or 11.
I don't know, something along those lines.
Yeah. So, but we were in it all the way up until the end. So this is a Cavs team who we both predicted to go 1-3. That was kind of our pessimism coming out. I said last week, I said I could see them going 3-1 if they, if they kind of got their stuff together. They ended up going 2-2. So I'm conflicted because on one hand it's 2-2 and you want to see them do better, but on the other hand, it's better than I thought they would do. So all in all, I'd say kind of successful, if I'm being honest.
I agree with you about conflicting thoughts, because even in our wins against Denver and Detroit, we have mentioned this now how many times in the last couple of months, they once again come out slow. And, even the game against Philly, they were behind early. The game looked like it could potentially be a one in favor of Philly. Then the Cavs come back in the second half. They implement the strategy that you talked about last week. Finally, double teaming Joel Embiid, making somebody else beat you. That somebody else that night was Tyrese Maxey. If Tyrese Maxey does what he does, you're going to lose the game, and you got to live with it. But unfortunately, to me, at the end of the day, this team is they're starting to become, they are still fun to watch, don't get me wrong. They're also exhausting to watch because you sit there and you go, it's like every game is like right there for the taking, win or lose. And a lot of the times, and we're seeing this now as we get the back half of the season, and the Cavs certainly have some makeup to do as we go down the last 2-3 weeks here in the regular season. This team, some nights I feel like they could beat anybody in this league, and some nights it feels like they can't beat anybody. It just depends on which team shows up, and it's frustrating.
One of the things that I have not noticed until recently, and I don't know how I haven't noticed this before, it seems there's a pattern that seems to be going on with the Cavs, and it's been going on for a while, and we have not talked about it. We've talked about how they get off to their slow starts, right? But then they always they crawl back into it, and then they run out of gas at the end. It's like watching the same rerun over and over and over. And I for some reason, when we were watching, I can't remember what game it was. It might have been the Lakers. I don't know. One of the games where they got off to a slow start, got back into the game, and then they just ran out at the end. And I'm just like, God, this seems like every single game they lose, this is the blueprint. And every game that they win, they don't run out of the gas at the end. They're constantly running and going and going and going. And that's why, we lost to Philly, but it was a very close game by 4. We came out and beat the Nuggets, came out and beat the Pistons. And when you watch the Nuggets and the Pistons game, the motor on every single player was constantly going. They were the same thing as we have talked about, defense and running in transition. That's what they were doing every single play. And when they played the Lakers, it seemed like the Lakers were trying to match that energy, and then they ran out of gas at the end. And it seems like when a team really challenges them with the same sort of mentality and game plan as they have, they seem to run out of gas.
The Detroit game to me was a Cavs game that we have been waiting for, and the Cavs games that we saw at the early of the season, where maybe they got off to a slow start, but you're right, in that second half, they turned defense into offense. They were getting stops. They were running out in transition. And I think the other key point is that game in particular, you had contributions from everybody again, whether it was Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Cedi Osman coming back, giving you 16 or something like that off the bench. Kevin Love hitting big threes. Isaac Okoro, who's starting to knock down his corner shots and doing what he was drafted to do. When the Cavs get that production from everybody, they are a tough team to beat, as we've talked about throughout the season. It's hard to guard all 5 guys when everybody is scoring, but it seems like also that's not coming every night. And I think it's also hurting them on the defensive end some nights when they don't get high scoring production from all 5 starters, or at least 5 out of their 7 top players, because they don't have, as we talked about, the offense and the ability to put up 120 every night.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I want to throw this out there. I am so proud of our boy Isaac Okoro. We talked in the early parts of the podcast. If you guys want to go back to some of the earlier podcasts, I'd say probably podcasts maybe 3 through 7, 3 through 6. We really, really were down on Okoro, and it's not because we thought he was a bad player. It's because he's a top 5 pick. We expected more from him. And, he's only I think Okoro's 20 years old, 20 or 21. He's so young. He's finally developing that corner three. He's able to get to the rim. When he gets to the rim, he can make some ridiculous circus type shots on top of being one of the best defenders in all of the NBA. And there is nobody that's going to convince me otherwise. This kid is finally showing that he deserved to be a top 5 pick. And if he keeps improving upon his game the way that he has all season, I could see him taking an even bigger step next year, which would be extremely needed as a team. But then if you look at that team, Sexton, if he comes back, Garland, Okoro, all these players we drafted who, can contribute offensively and defensively. And Okoro, I believe they interviewed him after the Nuggets game or the Pistons game, whichever one, I can't remember. And they were asking him about his shot falling, and he said that he's a lot more confident in it. He's a lot more comfortable with it, and he's glad he's able to take the pressure off of Darius Garland to score, because they are leaving him wide open to take those shots. They don't have confidence in him. Other teams don't have confidence in him to take those shots, and he's been knocking them down. I mean, he's been, I think, averaging 15 points a game. So we need him if he could take that next step along with his defense, he's going to be a scary player next year.
So, Mr. Isaac Okoro, if you ever listen to this podcast, when he was drafted, I publicly acknowledge I did not love the pick. Now, I said, listen, he's a great defender, and I totally understood that point of it. But when you are a shooting guard in the National Basketball Association, it's in your title, shooting guard. You have to be able to shoot the ball, especially as a guard in this league in today's day and age, I believe. Isaac Okoro, as I have admitted very early on in this podcast, and Joey mentioned probably about podcast 3 for 6, you can go look it back up. It's on tape. I have publicly admitted, hey, at the trade deadline, if the Cavs were struggling, if they need to go out and get somebody, move off Isaac Okoro. Go do, like I was publicly acknowledging the move off Okoro, because I said you cannot not be able to shoot in this league. Credit to him, he's been getting better all season long, and now his defense is obviously been great. But when you have that defense coming along with your offense, and you mentioned it, leaving him basically wide open, because teams have now said, we're going to trap Darius Garland. We don't trust, Okoro to knock down that shot. But if he keeps doing that, and when he does that consistently, it opens up so much more for not only Garland, but everybody else on the floor.
Yeah, and the other thing that you also have to take into consideration is when his confidence hits up with that 3, he also can and go, because we know he can get to the basket. He's got crazy athleticism. I mean, he can really rise above that rim. So he just needs to kind of put all those pieces together. And he's only been, this is what, his second season?
Yes, second season.
Yeah. So, I mean, Giannis wasn't amazing in his, and I'm not comparing Isaac Okoro to Giannis, but I'm saying that sometimes it takes players, 3, 4, 5 years before they're really, I don't want to say comfortable, but like they really can show what they can do. Steph Curry, his first few years weren't that great. He had bad ankles, and yeah, he could shoot well, but that was about it. And now he's one of the best players, of all time, and in the league right now. So, I'm not comparing him to any of these great players, but I'm saying that, we definitely were hard on him. I like his aggressiveness. Maybe, keep focusing on that 3, start developing a little bit more of a mid-range game, and start slashing that hoop, because it seems like he can get there at will. So he's done a great job. When Okoro was on, this team is definitely way better than, when it seems like he's just not as confident. I mean, he's always confident in his D, but when he's confident in his offense, this team is way better for it. And he could be a huge piece moving forward. I don't want to, I don't want to say next year. I don't want to say next year, but I think I think that a lot of that growth comes in the off season when you have a chance to work on different things. During the season, you're kind of working on the things that you're excelling at right now. So to kind of add new weapons to your arsenal, that's something that'll take place in the off season. But he's growing through this, he is growing through this season, which is, really nice to watch, really nice to see. And he could be, a vital piece of this team moving forward. Now, something we need to talk about, Mr. Lewis. Caris Levert, we traded for him. Gave a first-round pick. I believe it was a first and a second, something like that.
I believe so. But by the way, that first-round pick is lottery protected.
It is lottery protected. However, I don't want to. We're not going there. Cavs are making the playoffs. Here's the thing. I don't know if they're just trying to move him along slowly. I'd like to think that that's the case, because if it's not, then I got a bone to pick with JB Bickerstaff. Caris Levert has been playing maybe 18 to 20, 22 minutes a game, putting up 14, 15 points, three boards, 3 or 4 boards, 2 assists. He's been playing stellar defense. Why is this guy not in the starting lineup? He is the offense that we have needed, and we keep talking about these slow, sluggish starts. Why is he not starting the game? Because maybe we wouldn't be getting up to these slow starts if we had another offensive piece in the starting lineup. He's not playing the type of minutes that we hoped he would play, yet he's still putting up really good numbers. So sometimes it doesn't equate, just because someone plays more minutes doesn't mean that they, their stats go up. But traditionally that is the way you do it. The more minutes someone plays, the more points they score. And for someone only playing about 20 minutes a game and averaging 15 points, it seems like he should probably be in the game a lot more than he actually is.
So he's actually played more than 20 minutes on most nights that he's been back. So in his recent games, I have his last 5 games pulled up. Against the Clippers, he played 25 minutes. Against the Sixers, he played 25 minutes. Against Denver, now remember that was an overtime game, but he played 29 minutes in that game. Detroit, he played 24, and the Lakers, Monday night, he only played 16. So I completely agree with you. Again, we talked about, Okoro being able to knock down that shot when they are double teaming Garland. And as much as I like Lamar Stevens, Caris Levert is a better offensive player than Lamar Stevens. At least, and I've mentioned this to you a couple times, at least until Jared Allen gets back, it doesn't matter who plays the 2 or who plays the 3. At least get Okoro and Levert to me both in the starting lineup, because if Okoro's knocking down that corner 3, it's not only going to help Garland, but it's going to help Levert, because then you cannot double team. And Caris Levert, outside of Darius Garland, is the only guard really on the team that can create his own shot.
Yeah, Caris Levert, the thing I love about him is he drives into the middle. It's like he drives in the middle of the lane, stops, and then pops that 8-foot shot. Like it's almost a thing of beauty, because I think he's the only Cav that can actually do it. I mean, can you name me a Cav who's got an actually really good mid-range game outside of Darius Garland?
No, Levert. That's it.
Yeah. So he adds another dimension that the Cavs do not have in that starting lineup. You got Okoro, who's he's getting, his 3-pointer's getting more confident. He can slash to the rim. I need to see him do it a little more often. I love to see Okoro be more aggressive offensively while getting to the rim, because I think he gets fouled a lot. Okoro gets fouled a lot. Levert can create his own shot. Darius Garland can get to the rim. He can shoot his 3. He can create his own shot. He has been averaging 15 assists, 12 to 15 assists per night. He's been averaging almost 30 points. The kid's a bona fide star. Evan Mobley has been more aggressive. I still think he could get even more aggressive, but he's been putting up huge numbers in the absence of Jared Allen, and really a lot of times keeping us in this game. Those pick and rolls have been huge. Him finding ways to get open and throw down those dunks. You can see that his post game has been getting a lot better as well. He's not afraid to back people down. And Markkanen has had some man type games.
Sorry, Josh Unger. I'm sorry. You gotta throw that out there.
Lauri Markkanen, who was it? Nuggets? He averaged what was it? Or not, Nuggets? He had 33 and 10, or
yeah. I mean, he's double check that for you.
He has, when he puts up a three, I expect, like me and you have talked. There's just some players they put up a three, you expect it to go in. He's one of them. As soon as he puts up a three, I actually expect it to go in. So there is this lineup that, for me, it's, obviously it's Garland, it's Levert or Okoro at 2 or 3, 1 or 2, 1 or 3, doesn't matter which one. Markkanen at 4, Mobley at 5, even though I do believe Mobley is a power forward. I think that should be his natural position. But the one thing with Mobley at 5 is that Markkanen can also guard 5.
Yes.
So it allows them to kind of switch off of each other and play, Mobley is at 4, and then they can stretch the floor. And that's with Allen out, I think that is something that's important to remember, because I still don't think that teams have really 100% figured out a way to guard 3 7-footers.
I don't think you can. I really don't. Let's put it this way, you can if they can't shoot. But if Markkanen, who we know can obviously stretch the floor, you have Mobley, who is inconsistent shooter, but he can certainly knock down the outside shot, and Jared Allen, who we've seen over the course of the season get better at that shot. He's certainly not the best shooter, but from 15 feet, it seems like he's working on it. When you have those 3 guys, and 2 of them are 7 feet tall, the NBA teams, the way they're built nowadays, because over half the league is built on small ball, they're not built to defend the Cavs.
Yeah, but with Allen out, it's opening up some interesting opportunities, but I just don't think JB Biggerstaff has taken advantage of them because he hasn't been starting Levert. I will say this, Dean Wade, like the kid, great player off the bench. Lamar Stevens, when he starts over Levert or starts over Wade, has been 100% the better pick. We were screaming it from the rooftops, start Stevens over Wade, and it has, you can definitely see that Stevens is a better starter than Wade, even though I still think Stevens is a better bench player than someone like Levert would be. So I really just, why are we not starting Levert? Get him in that starting lineup. Maybe we wouldn't get off to these slow starts. Maybe we wouldn't get tired and sluggish at the end of the game, and we can, not just beat these teams, but put them away soundly. So that way, instead of other teams putting in the reserves with 5-6 minutes left in the fourth, we can start doing that, rest our starters and get ready like we were doing earlier in the season and get ready. I could see this team slowly getting back to where they were earlier in the season. However, this is crunch time. I think there's only 3 weeks left of the regular season. We need tonight, monster game, Brandon, monster game. Toronto Raptors, 1 game behind us for the 7th seed. Now, luckily, we do have the tiebreaker, but we win tonight. We're really good in sitting in this 6th seed. We lose tonight, I'm going to be very nervous.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Another guy, though, that I do want to talk about here is, how about Cedi Osman? Now, this dude missed the last couple of games before he came back against Denver. A mystery to me. You're telling me he's hurt. I never saw him on the injury report. So I have no idea what went on with that. Dylan Windler comes in for a couple games, replaces him, pretty much does nothing, let's be honest. Cedi comes back. against, I believe it was Detroit on Saturday night, and absolutely, in my opinion, saved the game. He comes in there with 16 points, very aggressive off the bench. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, again, was he earned? Because he wasn't on the injury report. Was he in the dogouts? I mean, what happened?
I wish I had an answer. I'd like to spend more time talking about it because I'm sure something had to have happened, but like you said, he wasn't on the injury report. We didn't hear anything about anything personal with him. I thought he was at the games, so I don't know what happened there. Were they like, oh, I don't know, let's not play one of our bench players and see what happens? I don't have the answer to that. I wish I did. I don't think they'll probably talk about it, but I don't know. It's a medical mystery, Brandon.
It doesn't make sense though, because we talked about Love and Cedi have literally been the best players off the bench for this team all year. And I mean, outside of obviously Garland, Allen, Mobley, Marketing, our core starting lineup. Those guys have been key contributors. What did I just get done saying earlier in this podcast? The Detroit games, you had Love contributing, you had Cedi Osman contributing, you had everybody contributing, and they were part of that off the bench. They gave real spark to this team, getting turnovers. And Dylan Windler, who is, and I'm not going to bag on him, he's been tough with injuries. He's been down in the G League. He's been healthy at some points. He's been playing in the G League. All of a sudden, he just gets in the game for 3 games. I don't understand why we're messing with this rotation. We only have 3 weeks left till the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, Osman was slumping a little bit. Maybe they just felt they needed to give him a little bit of rest, and maybe that's really just the end of the story. They just needed to give him some rest. Who knows? I mean, you'd still think that he would be on a report or something like that, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, he did have some pretty terrible games back to back. So maybe he just needed some time to relax for a couple of games before he came back. It seemed to have worked. I mean, he came back with a belly full of fire and put up some good numbers. So maybe he just because he was playing a lot of minutes too. I mean, he is one of our best bench players next to Kevin Love coming off the bench. So it could be one of a million reasons. That's the one I kind of want to go with, just in my own mind, because I don't want to stress too much about it. I think that obviously he'll be coming off the bench fairly regularly moving forward. Him and Love are kind of our two, unofficial non-starter starters, by rotating in, pretty early on, usually about midway through the first quarter, they like to come in. So maybe he just needed a rest, and that's that. I mean, I don't know.
All right, well, let's transition. We got a big game tonight. We have talked about it. The Toronto Raptors, we are going up to that team up north to take on the Raptors in essentially a game that could mean big seeding implications for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You take a look at the NBA standings right now as we speak. The Cavs are a game up on Toronto for the number 6 seed in the conference. Now, as we've talked about, the Cavs do own that tiebreaker, which means right now they're essentially up 2 games. Except for here's the difference.
Game and a half.
Tonight, if the Cavs win, they'd essentially be up 3 games because they would have the tiebreaker plus a win at. So that would make them 3 games up on the Raptors. As you said, it put them in great position for at least the 6 seed, if not the 5 seed, which we're currently only a game back of the Bulls. If they lose tonight, though, we would have a game up on Toronto due to the tiebreaker, but we'd be tied technically in the standings. And the Cavs, it'd be a dogfight in my opinion, to make sure to stay in that 6 seed so we avoid the play-in tournament.
Here we are.
Is this not the game of the year? To this point?
Kinda. I'm gonna say kinda. I'm gonna say it's definitely a big game. I believe we play the Bulls.
We
after.
do Saturday night.
Okay, so I'm not gonna say game of the year just because let's say we lose a night and then there's a lot of scenarios, but what if we lose a night? The Bulls lose the next time they play, and then we beat the Bulls and we jump from tied for 6th to 5th.
Right.
Yeah, so then it gets murky. But here's the deal. The Cavs got to win. They got to win tonight. Let's put some distance between us and 7. Then let's go and let's beat the Bulls just for the hell of it. So we can maybe jump up into that 5th spot. You got to win these games. And we were talking, 5 weeks ago about the Cavs a game and a half or a game out of first seed. And now we're talking about almost being in a play-in tournament. They got to figure it out. And we say this week after week after week. This Cavs team is so talented. And I get it that they're young. I get it. But they are almost at the end of the season. The Cavs, let me put it to you this way. If they lost every game for the rest of the year, guess what?
They'll be about 500.
They'll be about 500, which is what I predicted. I said they would go 500. You said they would win half of a game, and you know what? I will rag on Brandon for that, and this is the reason why. Because we picked our breakout players of the year, and I was thinking lesser known play like a Dean Wade, Lamar Stevens, a Dylan Windler, and I chose Dylan Windler. And then he comes out, well, my breakout player is Evan Mobley, the 3rd overall pick. So because he cheated and said something dumb like that, I am going to constantly rag on him, saying the Cavs were going to win 10 games all year. You're welcome, Brandon.
Did I not say at the beginning of the year, if this team was to go anywhere, Evan Mobley needed to be our 3rd best player?
We both did.
I did say that. And listen, Evan Mobley has been better than advertised. So
we both said if this team was going to succeed, Evan Mobley needed to be Rookie of the Year, and you picked him as your player to watch. Like, no shit. we picked him to be Rookie of the Year, and you're like, oh, he's my breakout player. Like, no.
You know what? He was the most excited player I was looking for to watch all year. So hey,
that's like me saying, oh, I think Darius Garland's going to win Most Improved Player this year.
Oh, you know what? You could have said that, and you know what? I would have disagreed with you. As we talked about many times. Oh man.
No, you wouldn't know. But
you know what? Getting back on topic, I do want to say this. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. As if you're watching on video, Joey is hysterically laughing right now.
I'm good.
I am scared of one team that's below the Cavs. This is why I don't want to get into this playing tournament.
The Nets.
I don't want to face Brooklyn. If it is a one game against Brooklyn for the 7th seed, mark it down here. You've heard this first. We're going to lose. I will predict that right now. If it is a one game for the 7th seed, whether it's 8 versus 7, the Cavs are going to lose. And the best likely outcome is we will face Atlanta or Charlotte, who have given the Cavs multiple problems this year for the 8th and final playoff seed. That's why I think these next 2 games against Toronto and Chicago, not to mention Orlando on Monday, by the way, these games are critical. Because if we somehow, some way, go 0-3, well, let's say 1-2, let's say we somehow lose to Toronto and Chicago, we should beat Orlando. Oh, we are set up in Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving is just coming back. I don't know if you guys have heard, but the New York mayor has lifted the vaccine mandate. Kyrie Irving can now play in home games for the Brooklyn Nets. And I am here to say Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on most nights in the NBA outside. I think there's a few better teams, that maybe have, a Giannis or Joel Embiid. But I think especially when you're looking at the Cavs, if they match up against Brooklyn a one game, especially if we don't have Jared Allen, the Nets have the two best players on the court. Like I take my chances with a Toronto who's a young team. A Chicago who, by the way, have not beaten the top 4 seed in any conference this season. They are 0-16 against the top 3 seeds from any conference. That's the Chicago Bulls. So you look at that. I think the Cavs can beat the Bulls. Toronto, this is going to be so tough. I don't know what to say. Do we win this game or do we not win this game? Do I be optimistic or do I not? I got to decide here on the fly. Screw it. Optimistic. Cavs are going 3-0.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say the Cavs are going to go 3-0. I think something's going to click in their head. I think you could see it in the last few games. Obviously, I think the Lakers game got away from them, but I think that this is something that they understand. This Toronto game is very important. This Bulls game is even more important, and they cannot overlook any team. They're going to go in and they're going to take care of business against Orlando. I think they're going to go 3-0. The next time we come back to this podcast, we'll be talking about the 5th seeded Cavs, which I would be if the Cavs, if the season were to end and the Cavs were in the 5th seed right now, we would be playing Boston, who I am very comfortable playing the Celtics. I think the Cavs can definitely beat the Celtics in a 7-game series. My fear would then be after that with the Heat, even though they had that an epic fight happened last night amongst themselves. That team, I don't know why, but they just scare the living hell out of me.
As I've told you multiple times on this podcast, I believe in my heart of hearts, the postseason is so different than the regular season because I believe that star power matters more than depth. I think Miami is a great regular season team. I believe the Cavs can beat the Heat in a 7-game series. I think that they have Jimmy Butler, who is a great player, but I'm not even sure Jimmy Butler is a superstar. I think he is a star, and to be honest with you, would take Darius Garland, and if we get J.A. back potentially, or, again, getting J.A. back, you got Mobley, you got Markkanen. I think the Cavs are better equipped because I think Miami is Jimmy, Bam, Tyler Hero, or bust. And when Hero doesn't score 20 off the bench, they're a lot like the Cavs, where they don't score a lot when Hero and those guys don't produce. They don't have that other star power.
Well, don't forget, you got Kyle Lowry getting healthy, had a big game last night. You got Victor Oladipo came back, putting up big minutes as well. That this team's it seems like they're getting healthier as we're approaching the playoffs, and that's one of those teams where you might not need a bona fide megastar because you got a lot of stuff. You got a lot of all stars on the team. That's why they scare me, because it seems like at any given time they could just completely go off. The Cavs kind of the same way, they can go off, but just a little bit of a lesser extent. As long as we're not playing the Nets, I'm good. I mean, the Heat are the only other team that scare me, but yeah, the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie and Durant, even though they did lose to the Grizzlies last night.
Without John Morant last night, I got to tell you, Memphis, I know this is a little off topic, but I'm going to say it. Memphis is a scary team. They're 15-2 without John Morant.
That's unbelievable.
That's a real team.
Desmond Bane, I think, he's like top 5 in the league in three-point percentage, and he's made over. He set a franchise record for threes made. I mean, you got Kyle Anderson who came back. You got Steven Adams and Felton, and I mean, there's just
they're loaded. And by the
way, Dylan Brooks. Whew.
By the way, this goes back to the Cavs. You mentioned to me very early in the season when we were beating Miami, when we were beating Chicago, but they didn't have their players. And I remember you asking me, you said, do you feel like that these are, not fraud victories, but do you feel that the Cavs are maybe overachieving or whatever because they're not facing the best talent? And at the time I said, no, because we're blowing people out. We're doing what we were supposed to be doing. But as I just said, you take a look. Now we are in the deep waters into the season. And I just told you, Chicago is 0-16 against the top 3 teams in either conference, regardless. Like, that's a real stat. It's as much of a real stat as Memphis being 15-2 without John Morant. Like, teams that know how to win without their best players are real teams. That's why, again, as I've been saying, I understand the Cavs do not have Jared Allen, who is our second best player. But if we are a legitimate, which you and I both believe we can be potentially a legitimate playoff team and potentially go far in this postseason if we get the right matchups, we have to learn how to consistently win without our best players. The good teams do it, and let's hope the Cavs do it this weekend.
One of the crazy things is we thought that at 500, the Cavaliers would be a playoff team. There are so many good teams in the East. I mean, Atlanta's only one game under 500, and they're the last spot. That's crazy. Usually you have like your top 4 or 5 teams. Everyone else after that's somewhere around 500 or below 500. And the East, it just seems like they're they're loaded, and the Cavs are fighting for their lives. So I think, bottom line, I think Cavs go 3-0. I think they take it tonight against Toronto. I think they take it against Chicago. I think they handle their business against Miami, and we're going to be coming back here next week talking about how good of a position the Cavs are in, because if they're not, I'm going to tell you what, Brandon, I'm going to go absolutely off next week if the Cavs do not go 3-0.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joey, they better take care of Miami, because they're not playing Miami. They're playing Orlando. So did I say Miami? Yeah.
I thought I said Orlando. I meant Orlando.
So they better take care of that invisible ghost up there in Miami. But yeah, I mean, let's face it. We need to go 3-0, 2-1 at the bare minimum. But really, if you think about it, one of those losses can change seeding. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to watch. The top 4 teams in the conference, by the way, are all separated by a game and a half. So we're not going to know, I feel like, to the last game of the season, who the Cavs play. And I think in that scenario, I've always said, you don't try to worry about getting this matchup or this matchup. Just win as many games as you can and see where it falls. And as we both said, we don't want to play Brooklyn in the play-in tournament. Yeah. But we're going to go ahead and leave it there for today. Joey, you got the last words.
Yeah. Great podcast. Always a blast. Don't really have anything big to say. Just a lot of fun. Cavs are playing, they're playing their hearts out. You can see it on the court. Really hope that they can go 3-0 in these next 3 games. We're going to see. And Brandon, let's help them out here. Let them know.
Don't forget to let them know. We'll see you guys next weekend.